It was a cold, overcast morning in downtown Atlanta. The kind of morning where the sky hung low, gray and heavy, threatening rain but holding back for now. Overnight, relentless showers had soaked the city, leaving shimmering puddles and damp streets that reflected the pale light filtering through the clouds. The air was thick with the sharp, earthy scent of wet pavement, mingling with the distant aroma of freshly brewed coffee from nearby cafes and the faint metallic tang of the city's subway vents. Zola pulled her thin jacket tighter around her. As she walked down the cracked sidewalks, her footsteps splashing softly into the shallow pools collecting at curb edges. She had become accustomed to mornings like this, wrapped in the hush of the city, waking slowly under a veil of moisture and mist. At 23, Zola was slender, with tightly coiled hair tucked under a faded beanie and deep brown eyes that seemed to watch the world quietly, absorbing everything and nothing all at once. Her work uniform, simple navy slacks, and a worn polo shirt clung damply to her frame from the lingering chill. Her shoes, scuffed and softened by miles of trudging through rain and shine alike, struggled to keep the cold from seeping in. Since she was 18, the routine had been the same: wake before dawn, dress quickly, and make the walk from her modest apartment on Auburn Avenue to Sunview Tower, the tall glass monolith of steel and mirror that pierced the skyline. There, she worked as a cleaner, an unseen presence among the polished halls, the gleaming elevators, and the bustling office workers who rarely glanced her way. The city moved around her in a blur of purpose and noise. Heads bent over smartphones, hands clutching umbrellas, shoes clicking smartly on wet concrete. No one slowed down. No one smiled. The cold light caught fleeting glimmers of frustration, hurry, and indifference on the faces of commuters who flowed past her like a river she could neither stop nor swim against. Zola had grown used to being invisible, to existing in the margins, where voices were low and respect was measured by silence. As she neared the grand revolving doors of Sunview Tower, her gaze dropped to the puddles shimmering on the steps, reflecting fragmented images of the city above. The night's rain had not fully let go of the morning, and the sky threatened to break again. Suddenly, a sleek black Mercedes rolled quietly up beside her, its engine barely a whisper against the early morning sounds. The tinted windows reflected the wet street and the rushing crowd, concealing the identity of the driver. Zola didn't turn her head to see it coming. She didn't need to. The presence was enough, a sudden shadow creeping along the curb. Without warning, the car surged forward, its tires slapping hard into a puddle right beside the sidewalk. A cold, heavy wave of muddy water exploded into the air and crashed over her. Zola gasped as the icy liquid soaked through her coat, dripped down her face, and pooled at her feet. Her hair, damp from the rain, stuck to her cheeks and neck, the cold biting sharply. Time seemed to freeze in the instant between shock and the cruel laughter that erupted from the car's open window. "Clean yourself off, janitor girl." The voice was sharp, high with scorn, cutting through the morning stillness like a knife. The laughter was callous, rich with arrogance, the sound of someone who believed they could humiliate without consequence. Zola's eyes locked on the gleaming black Mercedes as it sped away, the tires splashing through puddles, leaving behind nothing but cold water and bitter echoes. Around her, the city continued to move, indifferent. People had seen the cold splash, the harsh words, but no one stopped. No one offered a hand or a kind word. Some glanced with curiosity, others with disdain. A few smirked, delighting in the spectacle of humiliation. But Zola didn't flinch, didn't cry out. Instead, she stood still, drenched and trembling, fingers tightening around the strap of her worn canvas bag. Slowly, she pulled out a small, threadbare towel she always carried and began to wipe the mud from her face. The cold seeped deeper, clinging to her skin, but she swallowed the sting and started walking toward the building's side entrance. There was work to be done, and she was not a woman who wasted time on pain. Unknown to Zola, Across the street, in a quiet corner cafe, Malik watched the scene unfold through the foggy window. Malik, a 34-year-old entrepreneur and property owner, was a man who carried the city's pulse in his chest, a man whose early mornings were as routine as Zola's, but whose life had led him far from the shadows. As he sipped his steaming coffee, he saw the Mercedes pull up and the cruel act that followed. The arrogant laughter echoed faintly through the glass, chilling the warmth of his morning. But what stayed with him most was not the cruelty, it was the way Zola stood after the splash. The way her shoulders squared, the quiet dignity that refused to break, even soaked to the bone. Memories washed over Malik of his mother, a woman of quiet strength, who cleaned houses in Savannah to put books in her son's hands and hope in his heart. She had told him once, her voice soft but firm, "Stand tall when no one claps for you, that's your power." Watching Zola now, he felt a sharp ache in his chest, a mix of sorrow and admiration. Without hesitation, he rose, ordered a hot sandwich from the barista, and scribbled a note on napkin. The words were simple but meant to carry warmth across the cold morning. "Keep walking, you are seen." He handed it to the staff with a request to deliver it to the soaked cleaner. That afternoon, as Zola rested in the staff break room, she found the sandwich and note waiting quietly on the table. No name, no explanation, just an offering of kindness in a world that often forgot her existence. She sat for a long moment, tracing the careful handwriting, feeling the weight of those words settle softly inside her. She took a slow bite, warmth spreading through her, the first small comfort she'd felt in days. And though she didn't know the giver, something inside her shifted. In the weeks that followed, more unexpected gifts appeared. A pair of sturdy gloves left in her locker, soft and new. A notebook filled with carefully chosen quotes about hope and strength. Cups of warm cocoa placed beside her cleaning cart in the mornings. Each gesture anonymous, yet profoundly meaningful. Zola wondered who watched from the shadows, but no one came forward. So she buried herself deeper in her work, arriving early, staying late, polishing every stair rail until it gleamed, filling the halls with the faint scent of lavender and citrus from fresh-scented oils. Her dedication did not go unnoticed. Supervisors began to nod approval. Co-workers offered tentative smiles, some grumbled in jealousy, but Zola held her head high. She had been drenched in mud, but she refused to drown in it. And somewhere, somehow, she knew someone was watching. Someone who believed she was worth seeing. Jealousy began to fester quietly among some of the other cleaning staff at Sunview Tower, especially those who had been there longer than Zola. What started as whispered doubts about her sudden rise and mysterious encouragement soon morphed into sharp murmurs behind her back. Some grumbled that she was getting special treatment from management, while others rolled their eyes when her name came up, clearly annoyed at the attention she was receiving. There were subtle attempts to undermine her snide comments disguised as jokes, cold shoulders in the break room, and even an incident where a mop handle was deliberately left lying in a dark hallway, almost causing her to trip. Yet Zola never retaliated or raised her voice. Instead, she kept meticulous records in her logbook, and when confronted about missing a floor one day, she calmly produced proof of her work and volunteered to redo the job if necessary. Her steady, honest demeanor gradually silenced the rumors, replacing suspicion with a reluctant respect that rippled through the staff. Then came a day that would forever change everything for Zola. On a dull, cloudy afternoon, after she finished her shift, she opened her locker to find a formal envelope waiting for her. Unlike the usual memos or notices, this envelope was thick, its paper heavy and textured, sealed with an elegant emblem. Inside lay a letter, an acceptance notification for a full scholarship to study hospitality and facility management at one of the nation's top universities. No sender was named, but at the bottom of the letter were the words, "Your future deserves more than mopping floors. I believe in you." Zola's hands trembled as she held the letter, tears blurring her Vision. For the first time in years, she felt something far beyond survival or duty. She felt hope, a spark of possibility igniting deep within her soul. What she didn't realize was that Malik Carter, the man who had witnessed her humiliation weeks before and admired her resilience from afar, had quietly orchestrated this entire journey. Every cup of cocoa left on her cart, every encouraging note, and this scholarship were stones he had laid carefully on her path, guiding her toward a future. He believed she deserved. As weeks turned into months, Zola's life began to transform in ways she hadn't dared to imagine. After long days of scrubbing and cleaning, she would attend night classes, often exhausted, her muscles aching, but her spirit burning with renewed purpose. She polished with intention, walked with a newfound confidence, and moved through the halls like someone who belonged, not just as a background figure, but as a presence to be reckoned with. Yet, not everyone wished her success. High above the bustling streets, a security camera had recorded the entire incident: the Mercedes' cruel splash, the laughter of the driver, and Zola's silent dignity. This footage, long forgotten, was leaked anonymously and soon went viral on local gossip pages under headlines like "Rich Influencer Humiliates Cleaner" and "Atlanta Socialite Mocks Working Woman." While Zola remained focused on her life and studies, Olivia, the Mercedes driver, faced a growing storm of backlash. Sponsors pulled out, fans turned away, and her once glamorous image began to crumble. In desperation, Olivia tried to dismiss the controversy as a joke on social media, but leaked screenshots and private messages revealed a pattern of cruelty. The final blow came from her own family, as her influential father froze her accounts and demanded a public apology or permanent exile from their fortune. Meanwhile, Zola's hard work and resilience earned her recognition and a promotion. She was transferred to the VIP floor of Sunview Tower, the exclusive domain of executives and important guests. It was more than just a new assignment. It was a symbol of trust and potential. Standing in the staff restroom, dressed in her new uniform that fit better and made her feel stronger, she studied her reflection with a mixture of pride and disbelief. Unknown to her, Malik had personally approved her move, silently watching her climb with a mixture of admiration and hope. One evening, after a long shift, Zola found another envelope slipped under her locker door. This one held a handwritten note. "You've inspired me more than you'll ever know. You are not invisible. You are not alone. Someone believes in you." It was signed Malik Carter. The name meant little at first until she remembered a photo she had seen in a business magazine back in the break room. Malik Carter, the youngest black billionaire in America and owner of Sunview Tower. Tears welled up as realization dawned. All the kindness, the opportunities, the faith had come from him. She had thought she was invisible, but she was profoundly seen. Following morning, Zola walked into the building with a quiet fire in her heart. Though she had hardly slept, her spirit was buoyant with new purpose. She felt the weight of her journey, the hardship, the silent support, the battles fought alone, and wore it like armor. As she entered the VIP floor, mop in hand and shoulders squared, she noticed something different. People were watching her, not with judgment, but with curiosity and perhaps a dawning respect. In that moment, Zola understood. The path forward wouldn't be easy, but she had already taken the most important step, believing she belonged. Zola's days on the VIP floor quickly filled with new challenges and opportunities. The halls she once cleaned in silence now buzzed with whispers and sideways glances, some admiring, some uncertain, others tinged with jealousy. She learned quickly that moving into a space where executives and high-profile guests mingled meant mastering not just cleaning, but professionalism, discretion, and diplomacy. She handled delicate situations with grace: a spilled coffee in the boardroom, a lost phone in the lobby, or a confused visitor needing direction. Her attention to detail and quiet confidence earned the nods of a few senior staffers and even some of the executives themselves, but Zola stayed grounded. She knew her journey was far from over. Every task, no matter how small, was a step toward a better life, a promise she'd made to herself long ago. Outside work, her nights remained packed with classes and study groups. She devoured every lesson in hospitality and management with hunger, eager to transform her life beyond the janitor's closet. At school, she met people from all walks of life, some curious about the quiet girl balancing work and study, others inspired by her determination. Yet, despite her growing confidence, the weight of her old life clung to her in quiet moments. The worn shoes, the constant exhaustion, the sting of invisibility she'd endured for so long. But whenever doubt crept in, Zola remembered Malik's note, "You are not invisible." That simple phrase became her mantra, a shield against despair. Meanwhile, Malik Carter continued his watchful support from behind the scenes. He arranged meetings with mentors for Zola, people who could help her navigate the complicated world she was entering. Some were executives at Sunview Tower, others successful alumni from her university program. Each meeting was a doorway opening wider than the last, slowly pulling Zola out of the shadows and into the light. Yet Malik never pressured her. He believed in her pace, her process, and the strength she had shown so far. Back at the tower, the fallout from Olivia's scandal settled into a quiet but lasting lesson about power and responsibility. Olivia, stripped of her online platform and family fortune, was forced to confront the consequences of her actions. She entered a public rehabilitation program, speaking out about the impact of privilege and the importance of empathy. Though her path was difficult, many saw it as a necessary reckoning proof that even the most glamorous facades could crumble under the weight of truth. One crisp autumn evening, after a long day filled with classes, work, and mentoring, Zola received an unexpected call. Malik Carter himself was on the line. His voice was warm but purposeful as he invited her to a private dinner at one of Atlanta's finest restaurants, a place she had never imagined entering. The invitation was more than a meal. It was an acknowledgement of her progress and a chance to discuss her future in a way she had never dared to dream at dinner. Malik spoke candidly about his own struggles growing up, the sacrifices his mother had made, and the importance of lifting others as he rose. He told Zola that she wasn't just an employee or a student, she was a leader in the making. "Your story," he said, "is one of resilience, courage, and vision. Atlanta needs more people like you, and I want to help you get there." That night, Zola felt the weight of possibility settle over her like a warm blanket. The journey ahead would be long, filled with obstacles and hard choices, but for the first time, she saw a path that led beyond mere survival to impact, to change, to legacy. As the months passed, Zola's influence quietly expanded. She started a peer support group for other building staff, janitors, security guards, maintenance workers, offering a safe space to share stories, hopes, and frustrations. She became a bridge between management and workers, advocating for fairer schedules, better equipment, and recognition. Her voice, once muffled by invisibility, began to carry weight. People noticed, and slowly, the culture of Sunview Tower shifted. It became a place where dignity wasn't reserved for executives alone, but was extended to every hand that kept the building running. Yet even as her world broadened, Zola never forgot the moments that shaped her, the splash of cold water, the silent gaze of Malik, the kindness in a stranger's gesture. Those moments were etched deep inside, fueling her every step. They reminded her that true strength wasn't about power or prestige, but about grace in the face of hardship and the courage to keep moving forward. And so, with every floor she cleaned, every class she attended, and every life she touched, Zola rewrote her story not just as a cleaner in a tall glass tower, but as a woman seen, valued, and unstoppable. Zola's transformation did not go unnoticed beyond the walls of Sunview Tower. word of her perseverance and quiet leadership began to ripple through the city's service industry circles. Invitations to speak at community events and local colleges arrived unexpectedly, and though nervous at first, Zola found a new voice when sharing her journey, a voice that resonated deeply with others who had felt invisible or overlooked. One such event, she met Jasmine, a community organizer dedicated to workers' rights, who invited Zola to collaborate on a campaign for fair wages and improved working conditions for janitorial staff across Atlanta. This partnership sparked a fire in Zola, fueling her passion beyond her own ambitions to uplift those around her. Meanwhile, Malik continued to provide support behind the scenes, connecting Zola with influential leaders and opening doors she never imagined would swing open. Yet he always reminded her of the power of humility and hard work. "Remember, Zola," he said during one mentoring session, "leadership is not about stepping above others but walking alongside them." These words echoed in her mind as she balanced late nights of study with early mornings on the floor, tirelessly advocating for her peers without losing sight of her own growth. Despite her rising influence, challenges persisted. Some in management resisted change, uncomfortable with the shifting dynamics Zola inspired. They questioned her ideas, dismissed her meetings, and occasionally tried to undermine her credibility. But Zola met every obstacle with unwavering integrity and calm resolve, drawing strength from her past trials. She refused to be defined by the shadows she'd once inhabited. Instead, she used every setback as a stepping stone, proving through actions that respect is earned through persistence and kindness. The personal toll was real exhaustion tugged at her body, and the weight of expectation sometimes threatened to crush her spirit. But in the quiet moments, Zola found solace in her growing circle of friends and allies, including Malik, Jasmine, and her fellow workers. Their support became a balm for her soul, a reminder that no one walks alone. Her daughter, too, blossomed with pride, watching her mother redefine what it meant to be strong and graceful. One evening, as autumn leaves danced outside the tower's towering glass facade, Zola received news that left her breathless. She had been nominated for the city's Rising Leader Award, a recognition for young individuals driving positive change in their communities. The nomination felt like a testament to every tear shed, every silent step taken through invisible corridors, every act of resilience that had brought her here. The award ceremony was held in a grand hall filled with Atlanta's brightest minds and most respected figures. As Zola took the stage to accept the honor, she looked out at the crowd, many of whom had once passed her by unnoticed, and spoke with a voice both humble and fierce. "This award is not just mine. It belongs to everyone who has ever felt unseen, undervalued, or unheard. It belongs to those who keep going when the world looks away. Together, we can build a future where dignity and respect are not privileges, but rights for all." Her words sparked a standing ovation. Cameras flashed and social media buzzed. But for Zola, the true victory was deeper, a validation of her journey from the wet pavement of that cold morning to the bright spotlight of possibility. In the weeks that followed, new opportunities unfolded. Malik invited her to join a mentorship board dedicated to empowering young professionals from underrepresented communities. Jasmine's campaign gained momentum, with Zola at the heart of its efforts. Her classes neared completion, and plans for her future began to crystallize. She dreamed of opening a nonprofit, focused on job training and career development for workers like herself. Through it all, Zola remained grounded by the lessons etched into her spirit. Strength is quiet, courage is persistent, and kindness can change lives. And every time she walked through the lobby of Sunview Tower, mop in hand, she carried with her not just the weight of the job, but the light of a future she was helping to build, one where no one would ever be invisible again. Zola's journey toward change wasn't linear, and the path often felt steep and uncertain. After her award ceremony, New pressures surfaced, not just from external expectations, but from within herself. She struggled with imposter syndrome, questioning whether she truly deserved the accolades and opportunities that had come her way. Late at night, when the city was quiet and her small apartment felt too still, doubts crept in like shadows, whispering fears that she might slip back into invisibility. But each morning, as the first light filtered through her window, she remembered Malik's words about walking alongside others, and she found renewed strength in the community she was building around her. At work, the VIP floor brought new challenges. The environment was starkly different: immaculate offices, expensive furnishings, and employees who sometimes regarded her with polite distance, uncertain of how to relate to the janitor, now dressed in a sharper uniform and carrying a more confident stride. Zola navigated this space carefully, determined to prove that respect wasn't about where you stood in a building, but how you treated those around you. She began organizing small meets during breaks, inviting office workers and cleaning staff alike to share their stories and break down invisible walls. Slowly, the divide between floors shrank and bridges formed. Meanwhile, her collaboration with Jasmine grew into a citywide initiative, advocating for fair wages and dignity in labor. They held rallies, met with city officials, and rallied the support of local businesses. The movement gained media attention, highlighting stories like Zola's that had long been overlooked. But activism was tiring, often met with resistance from powerful interests unwilling to disrupt the status quo. Zola learned to pace herself, finding moments of joy in small victories: a signed petition, a new company policy, a worker's proud smile. These were the threads weaving a new fabric of justice. Her relationship with Malik deepened into a genuine mentorship. He shared not just business acumen, but life lessons about balance, resilience, and leadership rooted in empathy. One afternoon, Malik invited Zola to a charity gala he was hosting, surrounded by Atlanta's elite. Nervous but composed, she attended, and there, in a swirl of tuxedos and gowns, she realized how far she had come. Malik introduced her as a partner in his foundation's new workforce empowerment program, a role that would allow her to shape policies and create lasting change. It was both exhilarating and daunting, but Zola embraced the challenge with the same quiet determination that had carried her through every puddle and every dark corridor. Yet, through all the progress, Zola remained deeply connected to the realities faced by her fellow cleaners. She continued working shifts alongside them, never forgetting the roots from which she'd grown. She listened to their struggles, celebrated their successes, and fought tirelessly to ensure that the changes they deserved reached every floor of every building. Her story became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that transformation begins with seeing one another and choosing to believe in the unseen. At home, Zola's daughter blossomed into a confident young girl, inspired by her mother's strength and grace. Their small apartment, once a refuge from exhaustion, now hummed with dreams and plans. They studied together, laughed together, and envisioned a future built on possibility rather than limitation. Zola often told her daughter, "The world will try to make you small, but you have the power to be big in heart, in mind, in spirit." And with every word, she passed on the legacy of resilience that had carried her so far. One crisp winter morning, as Zola prepared for another day at Sunview Tower, she received a call that would mark a new chapter. A major corporation had offered her a position as a diversity and inclusion consultant, tasked with reshaping workplace culture across multiple cities. The role came with challenges: travel, public speaking, negotiating with skeptics, but also with the promise of broad impact. After thoughtful reflection, Zola accepted, knowing that her journey was no longer just about personal survival. It was about transforming the systems that once kept her invisible. As she packed her bag that day, Zola paused by the window, watching. The rain began to fall once again over Atlanta's streets. But this time, the droplets felt different: less like obstacles, more like cleansing. She smiled softly, tightened the strap of her bag, and stepped out the door, ready to walk boldly into the future she had fought to create, not just for herself, but for all who dared to dream beyond the shadows. The days that followed brought a whirlwind of new experiences and challenges for Zola. Traveling from city to city as a diversity and inclusion consultant, she stepped into boardrooms where she was once invisible, now standing confidently at the front, speaking about dignity, equity, and respect. Her voice, once quiet and overlooked, carried the weight of lived experience and the fire of a woman determined to reshape workplaces from the ground up. Each presentation was a story woven with truths, the hidden struggles of workers, the cost of discrimination, and the power of empathy. Her passion resonated, inspiring executives and employees alike to rethink their roles and responsibilities. But the work wasn't easy. Zola encountered resistance from some corners, managers who dismissed her ideas as idealistic, skeptics who clung to old hierarchies, and corporations more interested in profit than people. She learned to navigate these obstacles with patience and strategy, blending heartfelt stories with hard data, building alliances with unexpected allies, and celebrating every small victory. Late nights were often spent drafting plans, reviewing policies, and responding to emails, while her daughter waited patiently at home, proud of her mother's growing influence but missing her presence. Back in Atlanta, Malik continued to support her from afar, checking in regularly, sharing insights, and offering encouragement. Their partnership had grown into a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared vision. Malik admired Zola's unwavering commitment and her ability to carry the weight of change without losing her humanity. He often reminded her that true leadership was not about power, but about service, lifting others up as you climb. Despite her demanding schedule, Zola made sure to stay connected to her roots. She returned to Sunview Tower whenever she could, sharing her progress with former coworkers and listening to their ongoing concerns. She organized workshops on workplace rights, stress management, and career development, empowering others to find their voices and claim their worth. These visits grounded her, reminding her why she had started this journey, not for fame or recognition, but for justice and community. At home, the bond between Zola and her daughter deepened. They shared stories about dreams and fears, laughter, and hopes. Zola encouraged her daughter to dream boldly, to believe that her worth was not measured by where she came from, but by the courage with which she faced the world. They studied together, celebrated milestones, and found strength in each other's presence. For Zola, these moments were the true treasures, proof that her efforts extended beyond the walls of any building or boardroom. One spring afternoon, Zola received an unexpected invitation, a request to speak at a national conference on labor rights and social justice. The event promised a platform to reach thousands, an opportunity to share her story and amplify the voices of countless workers who remained unseen. Nervous but determined, Zola accepted. Preparing her speech, she reflected on her journey. Humiliations, the kindnesses, the struggles, and the triumphs. She knew this moment was not just hers, but theirs. When the day arrived, Zola stood before a packed auditorium, faces eager and attentive. She spoke with honesty and passion, her words painting vivid pictures of resilience and hope. She called for empathy, for systemic change, and for the recognition of every person's dignity. The audience responded with thunderous applause, many moved to tears, others inspired to act. As she stepped down from the stage, Zola felt a profound sense of purpose, a reminder that one voice, raised with courage, could spark a chorus of change. Months later, Zola's work began to influence policies in corporations across the nation. Wage gaps narrowed, harassment complaints decreased, and employee satisfaction rose. Stories of workers feeling seen and valued became common. Zola knew the road ahead was still long and winding, but she also knew that every step forward counted. Her journey from the wet sidewalks of downtown Atlanta to national platforms was a testament to the power of perseverance, kindness, and belief. In quiet moments, Zola often thought back to that rainy morning when the world seemed harsh and indifferent, and a stranger's small act of kindness sparked a revolution in her life. She kept Malik's note close, a reminder that sometimes the simplest words could carry the heaviest weight. She also kept her own promise to see others, to lift others, and to walk alongside them as they found their own strength. And so, beneath the city's ever-changing sky, Zola continued forward, no longer invisible, no longer alone, but a beacon for those still waiting to be seen. The city of Atlanta woke slowly beneath a sky heavy with clouds, as if the sun itself hesitated to rise. On the slick streets, the last remnants of overnight rain shimmered in puddles, reflecting the towering skyline like a fractured mirror. Amid the rush of suits and coffee cups, Zola moved quietly, almost unnoticed, a shadow slipping between hurried footsteps, her worn shoes tapping a soft rhythm against the wet pavement. Her uniform clung damply to her slender frame, and the weight of her canvas bag felt heavier with each step. Inside, her fingers nervously traced the creased edges of a worn notebook, pages filled with sketches and scribbled dreams no one else knew about. Zola's world was simple, yet complicated. Daily dance of invisibility and endurance. She cleaned Sunview Tower from dawn till dusk, polishing floors that gleamed but hid countless stories of struggle beneath their shine. Her co-workers often whispered behind closed doors, eyes flickering with a mix of envy and curiosity. Why? Was Zola different? Why did she carry herself with an unshakable calm, even when the world spat mud in her face? That morning, as she rounded the corner to the building's grand entrance, the sharp roar of an engine broke through the steady patter of rain. A black Mercedes glided beside her, smooth and gleaming like a predator on the hunt. The window rolled down with a lazy ease, revealing McKenna, a social media star whose life was a carefully curated display of luxury and disdain. Her eyes sparkled with mischief and malice as she aimed the car's momentum towards Zola. The splash was instantaneous and brutal. Cold water mixed with mud exploded over Zola, soaking her hair, face, and uniform in a humiliating wave. Time seemed to stretch, every drop dripping like a countdown in the silence that followed. The cruel laughter cut through the stillness. "Clean yourself off, janitor girl." McKenna sneered, her voice dripping with scorn as the car peeled away, tires spinning and disappearing into the city's maze. People stopped for a heartbeat, then turned their heads away. No hands reached out, no voices spoke up. Zola stood drenched, biting back the sting in her eyes, clutching her bag with white-knuckled determination. The cold bit into her skin, but her posture didn't falter. Somewhere in the crowd, a man's gaze lingered. Malik, owner of Sunview Tower, a man who had risen from humble beginnings to wield influence with quiet grace. He saw more than the splash. He saw the resilience beneath it. Days later, as Zola toiled under fluorescent lights and the hum of elevators, small tokens of kindness began to find their way to her: warm drinks, a soft scarf, a carefully folded note saying, "You are seen." Each gesture was a spark, a reminder that the city held pockets of light even in its darkest corners. The acts were anonymous but intentional, weaving a thread of hope through Zola's daily grind. But whispers grew like shadows. Jealousy gnawed at some of her co-workers who saw her rise from the sidelines. They whispered rumors of favoritism, sabotaged schedules, and careless accidents designed to trip her progress. Yet, every challenge met her with the same quiet strength. When accused of missing a floor, she presented her logs with calm clarity, her integrity shining brighter than any rumor. Respect, grudging at first, began to replace suspicion. Then came the letter, the one that changed everything. A thick envelope, heavy with possibility, waiting silently in her locker. Inside, an acceptance letter to a prestigious university. A full scholarship promising a future beyond mop buckets and night shifts. No signature, just a message. Your future deserves more than mopping floors. I believe in you. The revelation that Malik Carter had orchestrated this hidden support filled Zola with a mix of shock and gratitude. She had been seen. Someone believed in her not just as a worker, but as a woman with dreams and potential. Her life transformed, but not without struggle. Nights blurred between classes and exhaustion. Days stretched with work and study. The city around her pulsed with opportunity and obstacle, a constant test of her will. Meanwhile, Makina's arrogance crumbled under the weight of a viral scandal. Her reckless cruelty captured on camera and shared endlessly, turning public opinion against her. Zola's rise was quiet but unstoppable. Promotions followed, respect blossomed, and with Malik's mentorship, doors opened that had once been sealed shut. Her journey became a beacon, proof that dignity and determination could rewrite stories. On the day she stepped onto the VIP floor, for the first time, uniform crisp and heart-pounding, Zola caught the curious eyes of executives and guests. But instead of judgment, she saw admiration, surprise, even inspiration. She was no longer invisible. She belonged. Her story of rain-soaked mornings, whispered hopes, and relentless courage spread beyond the walls of Sunview Tower, a testament to the power of kindness and the strength found in being truly seen. As the applause faded and the lights dimmed, Zola stood quietly backstage, feeling the weight of everything she had endured and overcome. From the cold splash of humiliation on a rainy morning to the warm embrace of newfound respect, her journey was proof that strength often grows quietly in the shadows. She realized that true power wasn't just in rising above cruelty, but in choosing grace over anger, hope over despair. Tonight wasn't just about an award. It was about a promise she made to herself to never let anyone's scorn define her worth. Outside the ballroom, Malik waited patiently. Their eyes met, sharing a silent understanding that transcended words. He had seen her from afar, believed in her when no one else did, and now stood beside her as an equal, not just as a benefactor, but as a true partner in this new chapter. Together, they walked out into the cool night air of Atlanta, the city lights sparkling like endless possibilities. Zola paused by the entrance where it all began, the spot that once held only hardship and pain. She placed the award ribbon gently on the stone ledge, not as a trophy to boast, but as a symbol of release, a letting go of the past and an embrace of the future. Because sometimes, the world tries to drown us in silence and shame, but those who keep moving forward with resilience and courage show us that every soul deserves to be seen, heard, and celebrated. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, kindness has power and resilience lights the way. No matter how hard the rain, keep walking. Your breakthrough is waiting just beyond the storm.